continuing along our exploration of the Canvas learning management system, excuse me. And now we want to talk about how to create assignments in Canvas. So again, if you've used Google Classroom before, creating assignments in that is creating Google Docs and then assigning them to the class. It's a little different here in Canvas. So my assignment that I was doing as a sample is pretending about something about mapping Africa. I don't even know what this assignment could possibly be, but we're just making this up. So when you first go to it, you're going to see some stuff here, no content. That just means we haven't created it yet and we don't have any points for it and that kind of thing. Before you move on to the edit, which lets you actually do that, I just wanted to note this one thing down here, adding a rubric. I haven't done this yet, and when I look at it, it looks pretty interesting, and I think it would be really useful for grading. So if you're kind of converting assignments that you already have created over to Canvas and you have rubrics, it's probably worth exploring this. And if you want to explore it and you want to say, this is something my students do all the time, they come up with something new and they say, is there a badge for that? So hey, if you want some extra uh, badge work, maybe I can make a extension badge where you do some things that I haven't done before and get credit for it. So feel free to explore this rubric area. Um, it could be neat, but I'm just not good at it right now myself, so I can't tell you the ins and outs of that. So instead, we're going to go over here to the edit button. So this is where we're going to actually type in any thing that we want to type into the assignment, and I'm going to come back to that in a minute. I usually quick go down to the bottom here and make sure I do my little details first so that I can then focus on just what the assignment is. Otherwise, I forget to do these at the end when I get done with all my writing. How many points do you want the assignment to be? So that's obvious. Whatever you want, however you do your points. Um, Later on, once you get more and more assignments, you can start assigning them into sections and groups, which can help you with organization. And I think they come out in the gradebook better if you keep them organized. Right now, we don't have to do that. How do you want them to see their points? So again, this is just flexible depending on how you do your own grading. Submission type is where it gets a little interesting. And this is that you can tell them to submit things online. And so if you wanted them to answer a question, for instance, you could say a text entry, and then Canvas will give them a place to type, and they can type in the answer to whatever you want them to have. It would kind of give them a box a lot like this one, and they would type in with the same kind of tools. If they maybe they are creating a Google Doc and you want them to just kind of share the doc with you so they can get the share link on their Google Doc and then they can put that into a website URL. Or if you're doing something special like media or creating files, like so in my coding class, I can do this one a lot because I can have them upload their file. Though sometimes they do different things. They take a picture of the screen or a screenshot and or sometimes they copy and paste the things into the text. So I try to give them some flexibility on how to do their submissions, but of course it depends on the assignment. You could just say no submission and then you're going to put in the grade once they hand you something in person. So even if it's just like a worksheet that you hand out in class, but you want to keep track of it for earning credit towards the badge, but you want to be able to say, hey, you've done it and you've gotten a grade, you could put up here, complete the worksheet, blah, 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 and explain what the worksheet is. And then just say no submission, and then they hand it to you, and then you just go back into the grade book later, which is, this one, and give them grades. Um, I think on paper is pretty much the same thing as no submission. I actually haven't done that one before because if I know they're going to give it to me on paper, I just say no submission. External tool, you'll hear me say this a lot. But we're going to come back to this one. Basically, I just recently discovered that you can put Google assignments as if they were from Google Classroom into Canvas. And so there's a way to basically say, use Google Classroom, not Google Classroom, but like the assignments piece of Google Classroom to create assignments. It's not quite as good as Google Classroom. It looks a little bit like it, but it has Canvas stuff all over it, so it doesn't give you as much room on the screen to do the work. So you'd have to maybe play with it, or I can try to show it to you what it looks like. Yeah, maybe I should do that in this very video. But first, I want to focus on how to do things. Um, and then if you had special things like only certain people get the assignment when it's due, or does it disappear after a certain amount of time, or do you want to set it up ahead of time so it shows up at a particular time? Um, these things are kind of like the same as in Google Classroom. They have some things like that. I do want to mention that the whole point of assignments due, me personally, I'm trying to not make due dates for my digital badges because my theory behind the badges is that they all work at different speeds, and so I don't know when things are going to be due. So that's one of the things that I am working on. So for instance, even this classroom, this PDA class itself, I don't know when somebody might be working on this piece, and they could be doing it in a different order than what somebody else is. So I don't put a due date in, but I certainly think that there's a room to work with digital badges within some more traditional classroom things such as due dates, because not everybody can handle that. And I don't mean teachers, I mean students, and just the topics of the classes. Um, I don't mean to ramble, so let's come back up here and take a look at what you can do here. A lot of this you'll be familiar with. The only thing I wanted to mention is that this is based on HTML. So the things you're doing in here are getting HTML codes. This means a paragraph and such. And because of that, it's limited. You're not going to see make different fonts on here. There's nowhere to change fonts. There's nowhere to even change really fonts. I mean, there is some font size because they finally came up with a way to do that, but there's not a ton of editing tools. It's just kind of the basics. That said, well, because here's another one that if you don't know HTML, it makes a little, it doesn't make sense as much. But let's just say I wanted to put in some big words, so I have to edit that not as a paragraph, but as a header. So there's my big words. Those are kind of my choices. Again, I suppose I could say I want a particular. Let's just see. I want a paragraph, but I want it 36 points. So maybe I just need to break my habit of doing HTML headers and use the point size like everybody else in the world. Some that are more interesting is math equations. Um, being able to record or upload media right inside of it, putting images in, making links, putting in YouTube videos and that kind of thing. I'll cover that when we talk about making videos in class. This is also interesting if you had like an assignment that you wanted to link to some other things that you created. Um, all the things that get created in Canvas are over here. So let's just say you wanted to say, you know, check out this tutorial I created, and then you could highlight that and go to like pages and say, oh, I put the tutorial in this page, and so it will make links directly to things within Canvas. So that's kind of a nice feature that you can do. When you go to embedding an image, you can get images off of like Flickr or a URL from a website. If you're looking to upload your own images, you have to do it here through this Canvas button. And so, and then usually what you want to do is you want to save things into my files. so that you can get them in other places. If you save things in course files, you can only really get them in the one course you're creating. Maybe it doesn't matter, but it's probably a good idea to create some nice folders and stuff in this and then be able to work with it and find the things that you want. So here's some badge images that I've used in the past. So of course you can upload a file, find stuff on your computer to upload. Let's just say I put in um, this word alt text. That stands for, like, if you put your mouse over an image online, then a nice little window should show up with some words in it. These are the words that are going to show up. These words are the things that get read if you were browsing the internet with disability features turned on. It would read image descriptions to you. So this would say, oh, don't bother reading that. And then this is the size that you want the image to be. So if you want to change it to a smaller size, for instance, you only have to type in one of the sizes, and then when you click on the other one, it automatically changes it so that it keeps the same aspect ratio, so it doesn't stretch the image out. And then you can put an image into there. So that's, you know, a little bit of the features. Again, it's a bit limited, but most of these things you'll recognize from even a Google Doc has most of these same features. They just have more because they have freed themselves from just pure HTML editing, which is what this is right now. But it's enough to type in some basic things. And again, if you actually want to use a Google Doc, there's ways to do that too. And one way would just be to take, a URL and paste in a Google Doc and say, go read this Google Doc, and here's the share link for it. So that's one way to do that. And there'll be some other ways coming when we deal more with that topic in particular. What else do you need to know about assignments? I never actually did this over here. Interesting. Well, once they create an assignment, I'm going to jump over real quick to an actual class, I think. Unfortunately, I did my grading for the night, so I don't have anything that requires grading. Oh, no. That's just somebody, looks like somebody did some work over here. So, when they submit stuff, what I really like about this is it tells me over here in my to-dos that I have some things I want to grade, and I just go through them and grade one at a time in here. One student has handed in this, and it could be, you could imagine a student, or like a bunch of people did it the same day because you have a due date, and then you can click and go through them. So again, only recently did uh, Google Classroom kind of catch up to the ability that this has. So my student John has handed in some work, and I can see his work here. This was a Google Doc that he shared with me, and so it's loading the Google Doc directly in to my grading program. Two other people have done it, the average so far. So I can look. Oh, and he sent me a little comment noticing that he forgot to do something and he was fixing it. Um, but I can go through this. Of course, this is probably doesn't make any sense to anybody else, but he did a good job doing his logic gates and making these nice pictures in his logic gates. And so I would check this based on what I expect it to be and give it a grade right here. And so that's like what they call I think it's called the speed grader. I'm going to show you one other way to do that, and that is here under grades. And here I'm going to get my full grade book. Hopefully it's okay that you're going to be able to see some student grades. And so these are the assignments. It does have some pretty good search or like filter abilities. This is all actually pretty new. They changed their gradebook as well, so they're making improvements just like the Google Classroom is. Um, and so I can see grades. Now, what's kind of interesting to me is I can click on any of them and I can pull up some other information like that and what the grade is. And so I can change the grade right here if I wanted to. And I could go to the speed grader and it will bring me back to that same page and show me Isabel's work so that I can take a look at it. This is a quiz, by the way, and so it's showing me how it graded the quiz, which these things are graded automatically. We'll cover that when we cover quizzes. Um, but I just wanted to show you that you could get to that. And now that this is an assignment that more people have handed in, so I've graded all these people's assignments, and I can click on any of them at any point and bring up their work. So that's how I can kind of get to student work. So I can do it both through the grade book. It looks like I can get back to the grade book with that little button there. So I can do that both through the grade book and I can do it through when they hand in assignments. So I find that pretty cool. I found the grading in this to be really easy. And again, I can kind of scroll through here. I wanted to show you one more little thing. So John had handed in some work, and so there it is. There's a icon of some ungraded work that I can find. And again, my this is a little bit of a crazy class. There's just a lot of assignments, and the way that they are in order here makes some sense to me now. But it can be a little daunting once you have, you know, 50 assignments that you're trying to find in these grade books, because it's not the best search abilities. It's not bad because of the filters that I could add to it and say only show me things from a particular assignment group or a particular module. So that will make it a lot easier. And again, they only recently added that, so that's nice. All right, so that's, I think, everything I can think of about adding assignments. Of course, send me any information, any questions or comments or things that you want to be able to do. Your assignment here is just going to be creating a sample assignment or taking one of your assignments and converting it into a Canvas assignment for practice.